This was an unbelievable episode. I cannot wait to share this with you. I was on the um on the call with Suzi Conklin Nance. Now, she wrote a book. This is my Kindle here. It's called Break Free of Negative Beliefs and the Weight That Clings to Them. Suzi Conklin Nance has made um, my life change today. And I know that as you listen to this episode, you're going to be like, wow. So I always come into a conversation with someone looking for these incredible threads and moments. And I don't know Suzi, she doesn't know me. And yet we had this incredible connection. She talks about um, her journey as she went through weight loss. And she talks about how to break free from that. But the most important thing that I learned in this conversation today is that it isn't about weight loss to her. It is about all the other things that are underneath. She calls them get to the beef, get to the why, get to the bottom of who you are, what you are, why you are doing and saying, and why you are stuck in an experience. And so this is why people come to see her because she uses her experience, her skill, and her love for self help to help you, to help herself. She draws off of her own life experiences and she knows how to reframe stuff. So she talks about the beauty of gratitude as a whole body experience. She talks about the power of the subconscious. She talks about using self hypnotherapy as a strategy. And if you do buy the book or you download the book, it's on Kindle. I'll post all the other places where you can get the book. But she talks about hypnosis as a strategy, and in the book, she provides places where she wants you to interact. So you're not just reading, you're interacting. And she asks these really probing questions that are thought provoking and they're not too out there that you can't answer. So that's the other piece. She talked to me about today's truth, which in from her perspective is every day is this moment where you can connect to truth. So no matter where you are, where you're stuck, what your limitation is, you can actually change it. And it's through positive thinking, through reframing, and through understanding what is happening in your subconscious and your conscious mind. And of course, the unconscious too. But that unconscious, she says, is kind of the no fly zone. And the conscious part is where critical thinking is. And then the subconscious is where, we kind of live out of that space. And of course, I was sharing something about self-care because I was saying, like, I don't have a personal weight uh issue or a weight loss story, but I do have a problem with self-care. And she said to me, self-care is not a privilege. Self-care is a responsibility. I was like, mm-hmm, absolutely. I wrote that one down because that's coming with me. Three things that you can do to be in your body is to say what is grateful, what you are grateful for. Let your body has an ability to do something. So be thinking about three things that you are grateful for that your body does. And you can hear in this episode what where she goes with it and where you go with it. So maybe before this episode, write it quickly down or have it in your mind. What are three things that you're grateful for your body's ability to do? And then write down or think about three things you did for yourself in a day. So think about that. She focuses on micro actions and talks about anchoring ourselves. And she also talks about that she doesn't believe that there's mistakes. And that's probably the most juiciest part because it was directed to me. Just so gorgeous. And she encourages us to change our story and rewrite it, and that we can do it because we have the power to do so. This episode is extraordinary, and I'm telling you, this is a great episode to start your year. This is good. And I cannot wait to share this with you. So, this is the best time for me to welcome my beautiful guest, Suzi Nance. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you. It's great to meet you.
Yes. Sorry I couldn't send you my book.
You know what? I got it.
Thanks.
I
That is
love
like
it.
I, really embarrassing that I don't know how to access it online or even like where it is. So yeah, I'm gonna work on that'll be on my list for 2025.
I'm just telling you, there's no issue with me on that. It was, it was either uh how do I do it if I don't have a book? So I was happy to make the connection and buy it and support you
Great.
in whatever way I can. So
Awesome. So
I'm thrilled to have you on, and I'm appreciative of the fact that you want to sit and have a conversation with me today.
totally. So what do you want to talk about?
Oh, I want to talk about it all. Now you are a little bit blurry. Can you, am I blurry
Your
with you?
yes.
Okay, that should be fine.
Okay.
Let's say if by chance um, the audio is or the video is blurry, then we'll just release the audio. It doesn't make a difference to me.
Perfect.
Okay, cool. So I think we should just dive in because I have a lot of questions. I went through your book and
Okay.
I read it,
Thank you.
and it was really neat. I want to say I appreciate how you gave the space in the chapters to actually answer the questions and to sort of do the work on your own. I felt like um that was really helpful to me to go from, reading your story, which is incredible, by the way, and I have a lot of questions about that, but reading your story and then you bringing us into this journey, and I got to admit I was like, okay, so where's the hypnotherapy? And then at the end it's like you already did it.
Right.
And so we're thinking it's this really spooky, crazy thing,
But it's
and
not.
you make it so attainable. Can you speak to that?
It is. It is. It's funny because there's two sides of it. Like one part I still think of as magic. That like one of my favorite stories was I had a woman. I live in Newport, Rhode Island, on a Quidnick Island, so you have to take a bridge to get here, or you can fly or a boat. And a lot of people have fear of bridges. And I had a woman come to me. She was 85 and had not, she was in her 80s, but she had not been off the island in 35 years for her fear of bridges. And I hypnotized her one time and I said, okay, I want you to drive to Jamestown. And she called me sobbing, you've let me out of jail. And I still, when I have these things that have plagued people, and in a matter of sessions, sometimes one, usually it's a few more than one, but they could just release themselves from that. It is fascinating. But the active hypnosis, it's a very normal state. We go in and out of it all day long when we first wake up in the morning, first go to sleep. Do you ever find yourself driving? You get to your exit and you go, ooh, how'd I get here? Trance. Or you're reading something, watching something, and someone walks in and says, Lori, and you startle. You were in trance. So,
Interesting. Like, so when you said that, I read that story in the book, by the way. It's in the book and it's a great story. And I was moved by that story actually because um and I'm glad that you mentioned that because it's in my notes to mention because it wasn't about weight. Like this book is about your story of weight and how you moved the weight and off of your body and by connecting to our gaps and our spaces between our conscious and subconscious. You talk about that, but this story that you used had nothing to do with weight loss and everything to do with life circumstance.
oh, 90%. The reason I wrote that book is I was interviewed for um, First for Women magazine on my weight loss. And even prior to this, I was running retreats all over the country. And at the end of them, people would say, "So can I continue to work with you?" And I would say, "You have to fly to Newport. We can do an intensive 5 days, but I don't do anything virtual." And then this article was in the magazine. And so women from all over the country were contacting me saying, "Can I work with you?" And I was saying, "No, I don't do that." And they're like, "Why don't you write a book or something?" And I kept hearing it. And I had been toying with saying I wanted to write a book for a few years. That's sort of a funny story, too. And then when this happened, I wrote the book. And it was really to answer all those people that were calling. And I do a lot of weight loss in my practice, but I,
Yes.
I work with a lot of hospitals, I work with a lot of pain, fears, phobias, you name it. I've probably done it.
Well, and what was intriguing to me is so in chapter 29 of the
Mhm.
book, which is not, it's not, doesn't mean the book is 500 pages. The book is, 200 and something. So chapter 29 is workable. It's
Yeah.
totally workable. And um, in chapter 29, you give these scripts, which are really helpful because I could read that. And as I read it, I got to admit, Nancy, or sorry, Suzi Nance, that's where my
Happens all the
brain's
time.
going.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure I'm sorry. But my brain, it was as if I had this moment where I was like, I do this all the time. That script I say all the time to myself. I just don't know I'm doing it.
And you are. When we're doing all hypnosis is self-hypnosis, is the more whatever we tell ourselves,
Yeah.
that's what becomes our reality. I mean, think of it this way. When's the last time you got into a little argument with someone? I don't mean like a knockdown, like just an argument.
Yesterday.
Okay. When you're in those arguments, usually after the first couple of sentences, you have one goal to prove yourself
Win.
right, that they're going to get it, right?
Yep.
And we do the same thing with ourselves. If you wake up in the morning and say, "Oh my God, today is going to be a great day. I just know it. I feel it." Every little thing that goes kind of right, you're like, "See, I knew it." Same thing on a bad day. We find those things to prove ourselves correct. So if you say, "Ugh, I'm always late. I'm always late," you're going to make yourself always late because obviously your subconscious says, if this is what you're saying, this is what you're doing, this is what you want to be. So we'll be late. Are
Okay,
you,
so
do you tend to be late? You just had a very interesting.
potentially. Yeah, I mean, yes.
Okay. So this is the key to um, why I'm really good at what I do
Yeah.
is if I were just talking to you and I noticed that subtle shift in your body, I would know there's something there. And that's what I go digging for. And
So
that's
what did you see? What did you see?
you just had a little shift when I said you're always late. So it hit something with you. So it tells me, okay, so did you read the client stories?
No.
Read those because what's fascinating about them is it is rare. we do what people come in here for.
Huh.
There's something underlying. There's a reason. It is when I'm talking to people that have a tremendous amount of weight to lose.
Yeah.
And I'll say, why do you want to lose the weight? Da, da, da. And then I'll say, okay, why do you want to keep it on? Oh my God, I don't want to keep it on. Well, what's working for? There is nothing working for me at this weight. Lo and behold, there's things working for you. And it's just, and we need to pull those out because those are the hidden negative and false beliefs that are keeping us where we are. And that's what happens to all of us. Why? It's the rub. We say, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to eat the donut. Of course I'm not. And then you're eating
Of
the
course
donut
I
going,
do.
right, this doesn't make any sense. Why am I doing this?
So if I look off camera, it's because my notes are on another screen. That's why so please just know that.
Okay.
But can you take us back to your first desire? So in the book, you say on page 23, you say, it's chapter 3, by the way, and you say, I was a happy-go-lucky kid who didn't even realize the size of my body was an issue. That is until about age 11. My mother lied and said I was 13 so she could sign me up for Weight Watchers. Thus began my journey through physical insecurity and self consciousness and a wacky relationship with food. So that is so interesting because, I mean, in and of itself, I'd love to hear you talk about that. But the one thing that struck me was how did you find out that she did not tell the truth about your age? And what did that
Oh,
do
oh, because she
to
told me.
you?
She told me when I
She
had to
told
go,
you.
and she didn't even come with me. Like she like dropped me off and said, you're gonna go to Weight Watchers. They're gonna ask how old you are. Make sure you say you're 13. Okay.
So, in hindsight, what did you think? How did that work for you?
I mean, it was like, okay, I guess like I got a little issue here. I was really a clueless kid. Um, it boggles my mind when I think, um, I was telling someone a story the other day. I went to a new school in fifth grade. Like fifth grade, you're pretty cool and you have an idea of what's going on, right? So
Yep.
this was a Catholic school and you had to wear a uniform, but the first couple days you could wear street clothes. Brand new kid in fifth grade, and my mother gives me this dress with this like anchor on the front of it and a hat, like a tam with a pom pom. And do I fight or not at all? I'm like, okay, whatever. I get there, and this is so funny. I know this is not going to play anywhere here, or I wouldn't be able to tell the story. But there was a little girl in her cute little spaghetti strap top and cute little shorts, and she's standing with all these kids. She goes, check out Pom Pom Girl. Well, that was it. I did not recover from Pom Pom Girl. But the thing that makes me laugh about all of this now is how clueless I was, how I just was like, all right, whatever. Yeah.
So how do you encourage someone who has a similar story and they are stuck in the pain of that moment? They've been stuck in the pain of that moment for their entire life. When they talk about it, they choke up, they start to cry,
Yeah.
and they listen to you say to me, I can laugh about that. Can you talk about
Yes.
that?
Yes, because that is everything. It is our story. And it is the difference between post-traumatic stress and post-traumatic growth is just that how we tell our story.
Okay, so firstly, just pause because I just learned from you post-traumatic growth. What is that? I have chronic PTSD from my childhood. And I've, worked on that. I know what that is. I know what that feels like. I know all the details. And I know those narratives that come up and they just you might as well be back when you were 7 or whatever, right?
Mhm.
But post traumatic, like this PTS, the growth part, that's new to me. Can you share that with us?
Yes, it is. All of this began, don't hold me to like dates or names or anything like this, but
Sure,
it's been around
sure.
for a while. But it was really, I think, like in the 80s, 90s, that they were looking at wounded vets that would come back and they had the same similar experience. And years later, one of them had gone on with their life and was leading a successful life, and the other one wasn't. And
Okay.
what was the difference in why these traumatic events are traumatic? They're traumatic mentally, physically, we carry that pain with us, everything. But why are some people able to build on their trauma and create something good out of it and others not? I'll tell you sort of an interesting story. Because I
Sure.
had somebody that came to me because she had had a sexual abuse in college episode and it left her obviously
Yes.
with some
Yes.
issues. And her big one was trust,
Mm.
but feeling paranoid at all different times. She would like see people and just constantly was feeling like that. And she worked with me, she worked with a therapist, I mean, different things over the years. And ended up very solid and feeling good and everything. And she moved to Boston and life was good. And she called me a couple years later and she said, "Shit, I got to get back in. I'm having that paranoia is coming back." And I said, "Tell me what happened." And she said, "The other night I was going into Walmart and as I walked across the parking lot, there was a car parked in front and there was a guy sitting in there. And he looked at me and I just got this feeling and I turned around and went back in my car. I said, "You're not getting that back. That is your sixth sense that you picked up from your event. Somewhere we take in so much information in every second, but something you saw in that person, and that probably saved you maybe a really horrific incident happening." And she was like, "Okay, I think you're crazy, but let me just think about this." And she called me a couple days later and she said, "I think you were right because I'm not feeling that way." And I did in the moment, I felt like I recognized something. And so that's it. That's it. One example of it. But when I work with people with severe trauma, I always have them tell me their story. Your trauma story stops in your story. You go back to
Mm.
7. That's what you said. You're back in that moment. What I do is take you to right now. Okay, I don't know much about your life, but I'm sitting here taking hours out of my busy day and talking to you. So you must be pretty important, successful, all of that. Every moment in your life helped you get here. Everything
Yes.
was important to doing it. And I've never worked with anyone that didn't have really good things that have happened. And so it is being able to sort of put that trauma, yes, it happened. You'd never wish it on any other human being. You certainly don't wish you went through it. But because you did go through it, you got to meet this person or have this experience or grow from this or help somebody. And it is seeing the positives that have come out of it. And that's where growth comes from. Is there's another story about someone who was kidnapped, and he was kidnapped as an adult, lived in a closet for like 5 days, ended up being saved. He was kidnapped by a lunatic because of his beliefs, and he went on to have a successful life. He had a great business, a good family. They went on vacation. He played ball in the front yard with his kids, all of this. And somebody was interviewing him years later and realized his story was, thank God for the detectives on the team. Thank God that the people had the money to pay the ransom. Thank goodness that one of them was sort of an idiot. Like all of them is finding that gratitude that saved him, not the anger that caused it.
So this would be a reflection of a victim mentality versus a mentality that says, I'm learning, I'm healing, I'm growing, I'm developing. Like you can say those words in an action way. I
Yeah,
am, every day is a new day. Every day is a fresh start. Like you can bring in a reframe to support your personal growth.
correct. It's all a reframe. It is reframing your trauma. Like, yes, I mean, my fifth grade year was completely traumatic.
Yeah.
And it could be very easy for me to, again, I think I don't really deserve credit for this. I don't think it's anything that I consciously did, but I think I have always had a fairly strong sense of self that she made it difficult, but I didn't buy her shit. I didn't think, oh, I'm pom pom girl. Do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. So then, how did you use that to drive you to create this? Because there are people that don't, that are listening, that they internalized it. And you talk about that external versus that internal. So maybe we go to the subconscious. Maybe that's where we hit on part of what your book talks about, which is the power of the subconscious.
Totally. But it also is just going back to what you said. We have a choice. We can live
Yeah.
from the inside out. This is who I am, bring me to the world, or the outside in. This is what the world expects of me. Then this is who I'm going to be.
Well, and okay, so Susie, you said something that I did a TikTok this morning and an Instagram this morning about you coming on the show.
Oh,
And something struck me because I was really honest. I said, I got to admit, when, okay, I see your profile, I go, okay, so hypnotherapist, stop. I'm done. I'm out. Because first, for me, I went, no, that feels so unsafe to me. Susie, my body is not safe. How my life and experiences led me is that my body was supposed to be a secret and I was not safe in it. So this was really interesting to me. So when I see the word hypnotherapy, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna bark like a dog. I'm gonna do all these things. I might say something,
right.
right? Like those, all the
Yeah.
things that you hear. But then there was something that just opened for me when I just kept going back to your profile and reading it and going, nope, this is right. This is right. This is right. Then I get to page 60 of your book, and the words that you wrote struck me. I could not believe it. And the words were, through your eyes, you saw what you expected to see. And this really supports what you're just saying right now.
Right.
Because we, and what my takeaway from this was that I expect to see something because I've had an experience from my past, good, bad, neutral.
Right.
You are saying, yeah, you expect to see that. When you interact with someone in an argument, you're looking at them going, I expect you to bring up the old version of myself that was, in that argument 3 weeks ago. But she's not here anymore. She's changed, but you're not giving me the benefit of the doubt. Like, we just do this to ourselves, and you further explain in the book, and we do this to ourselves when we want to heal.
Mhm.
It's
Well,
brilliant.
is our subconscious, and just do a quick little, we have three
Please.
minds. We have our conscious mind, which is our critical thinking mind. Right now, yours and mine is engaged, hopefully. It's the one that makes decisions, says, oh, I've learned this. This makes sense. I shouldn't smoke 6 packs of cigarettes a day. It is how we define ourselves. We have an unconscious, that's where the bodies are buried. We don't even go there. But our subconscious, which is the hugest of all of them, and that's where it, first off, it has two primary jobs. One is to make life easy, and two is to keep us safe. So it is where all of our automatics, beliefs, behaviors, actions, memories, feelings, all of that live in our subconscious. But our subconscious is like the original GPSs, the Garmin's or the TomToms. Remember those? You bought them,
Yep.
they're like $500, and you're every year supposed to buy another disc for a couple hundred. If you're like me, one and done, right? So maybe I'm driving to your house and it's 6 hours each time, but they put in a new super highway. I didn't buy the discs. So I'm still using the old, and that's what our subconscious is like. It is not judgmental. It doesn't say, oh, this was good for you. That was bad for you. You did this yesterday. We're going to do it today. You smoked 6 packs of cigarettes today. Great. We're going to do that today. And then your conscious mind goes, I really got to quit smoking. It says smoking kills you. Your subconscious, don't listen to that. That's not, what are you going to do when you're stressed? What are you're going to smoke. Just smoke. Don't listen to that. You got to do it. So that's how it keeps us there when our conscious mind is wanting to push forward. And then
Mm.
another way it does it is, do you ever find yourself driving on the highway and you get to your exit and you say, how did I get here?
Always.
Perfect. Okay. So
Yep.
while you were driving, your subconscious was, your conscious mind's off here, your subconscious is driving, and it's driving the way it's always gone. So in the morning, I leave my house and I come to my office. And sometimes I'll be like, oh, I got to remember tomorrow morning to stop at Staples on the way. And the next thing I know, I'm pulling into my parking lot because my conscious mind was thinking about my day, and subconscious goes, oh, we're driving to work. We don't
Right.
stop at Staples on the way to work. We drive to work.
No.
And that's how it gets us stuck, to do the same things over and over. And these automatic thoughts and behaviors are actual physical neural pathways in our brain. And just like muscles, the longer you've had them, the more you use them, the stronger they are, the harder they are to go in and say, okay, maybe that was true once. That's what I do in hypnosis. I don't go in and say smoking is bad.
No.
It's true once smoking was good. I mean, I was a dorky 13-year-old who had a cool, obviously, I was a dorky kid, right? I already got that out. No secrets there. But I had
Well, you say it.
a very cool, hip older brother with his friends. And one day everyone was hanging out. And one of them said, Susie, do you want a cigarette? And I'm like, okay. So I'm smoking a cigarette and everyone's looking at me hanging with the cool kids. My political capita goes way up. So I'm going, holy shit, smoking is great. Love
Yeah.
smoking. So
You're a risk taker now.
yes, that's my core belief, is that smoking's
Mm.
good. So the
Mm.
subconscious is like, no, no, smoking is good. You taught me that. So that's what we're going to do. So in hypnosis, I go in and say to the subconscious, yes, it was true at 13, smoking was good. But today, and I call it today's truths, just because something was true once doesn't make it true today.
So then, if you follow that, if we just were to follow today's truths, then what you're saying is it is absolutely possible to change your life tomorrow.
Yes.
Like, and what was so interesting to me is you bring up this example of you exercising and not liking going to the gym and not liking how you were, how exercise was presented to you. So what was interesting is I have 4 kids, and they're
Okay.
three are adults, and one of them is 15.
Okay.
So it just so happened that my sons were up in the kitchen last night, and I said, hey, I just, I got to tell you something. I read something from this, I guess, that's coming on my show. And you know what she said? She didn't like exercise. And so she put herself into self hypnosis before she exercised. And guess what? She would look around and the time would be over. No pain, no gain. My son looks at me and he's like, I should try that with cooking. But I thought that was really interesting. So can you share about that? Because it just goes to today's truths. It's literally the truth that you choose to in that moment, in that day.
So is so again, I never liked exercising and I never liked exercise classes because my mind is always going and and I would think I could be doing this, I could be doing this, and yoga was the worst because you're in the pose for like doing that.
Forever.
And yeah, it was my ADD, I needed to get out of here. So
Yeah, yeah.
when I first was learning about hypnosis, I wanted to try it. So I thought, okay, this is something I don't like to do.
Mm,
And what I hypnotized myself was the thing that I didn't like about exercise classes was the amount of time. So again, this is getting to the beef on something. I didn't
okay.
just tell myself, you love to exercise. I figured out what don't I like about it because I like to walk. I like to dance. I just didn't like classes that were boring. It felt like the time just was like I was in there for hours and it would be like 15 minutes. So I hypnotized myself that the time went very quickly. And it was like, oh my God. I started doing these classes and again, I would look up and like 45 minutes would be gone. It was like, oh my God, I feel like I just got here. And so that gave my body time to really love the classes and what I was doing. And I picked hot power yoga just because it's right near me. But I ended up liking it because I didn't have time to think about anything because I was just trying to stay alive. It's like
Right,
so
right.
hot,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
moving.
So get to the beef. That's the thing. What you're saying is first you've got a rub, right? There's a rub. There's like the I want to change, and you were saying this earlier, and I don't want to change. Or I set
Yeah.
an intention to not have an evening snack.
Mhm.
And I sit down and what how does it happen? But I just magically eating some chips. It's like they just land on my plate. I feel terrible about myself. I beat myself up about it. I say tomorrow, tomorrow, tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes, I'm still watching football. I'm having my time with my partner and I'm like, "You want some chips?" He's like, "Yeah, let's have some chips." And off we go again.
Right.
So you're saying um we all have this and that's the rub. So then you lead us in the book to the space where you're saying, now get to the beef, because the beef is the root. The
Right.
beef is your why.
Correct. You don't want to not eat the chips. You want to
No.
feel healthy. You want to not put the shit in your body. Sorry.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, no.
um, all of the things that come with it. People will come to me and say, I want to work harder. I want to make more money. And I'll say,
Mm,
okay, so where are you going to put it? And I'll be like, what? Like the money. Like, what are you going to do with it? If you make a lot of money, paper bills. Like,
sure.
I don't know what you're talking about. And it's getting to, it's, you don't want to make more money. You want the lifestyle that comes with more money. What is that? That's
Yeah,
that's what you want. People don't want to just lose weight. They want to feel good in their clothes. They want to be healthy. They want to have energy.
that's what you lead us through. And I think this is a really important piece because you lead us in chapter 10. You're like, where are you now? And that's kind of a part of the process. It's a very easy book. This is not like a book that
No.
it's interactive, which I really appreciate. Thank you so much. It just felt so good to drop myself. Now I'm thin. I've been thin. It's just, it's just the way of it. Now
Mhm.
you say though, could you lose 5 pounds? Could you lose, 500? For me, it's not about my rub, is that I don't take care of myself.
Right. So I would say you would come to me and say, I want to take better care of myself. And I would say, okay, why do you want to take better care of yourself? You can respond. We can
Oh,
pretend this is a
I
session.
oh,
Why do you
sure.
want to take better?
I want to take better care of myself because I want to feel strong and empowered.
Why do you want to
I
feel?
want I want to feel connected
Okay, but why do you want to feel strong and empowered?
because I haven't always felt that way.
Okay, what will life be like when you feel that way?
It will feel grounded,
And what
calm,
and what does it feel now?
ungrounded. It feels just a little on the edge of unstable. Not mentally unstable, but just uh letting my life lead me, and I want stability.
And what does stability look like?
That when I lay my head on my pillow, I can say I nurtured my body, I nurtured my mind, I fed my body, and I did the the I put into my body the gratitude that I feel for my life, but I don't necessarily feel it for my body.
So are you not feeling it for your body because you're not taking care of your body in the ways that you think would send that message?
Yeah, I never learned to do that. I learned to be exhausted. Being exhausted was the reward, and taking care of myself was secondary, like even 10th on the list.
You know, a little aside here. This is one of the things that is self-care is a responsibility. It is not a
I
privilege. Is and we send these messages. I mean, we grew up, I'm a lot older than you are. I mean, my generation, I'm very lucky. I had a mother that was very critical, but she also practiced self-care and
Yeah,
did not apologize for it at all.
sure.
Is getting to that place that we're doing these things because it is in the best interest of our health and well-being and of those of people around us.
Absolutely. I self-care, I'm 50 this year,
Mm.
and I'm like, you turn into that person. You're like, I'm 50,
I
but you
loved
had
it.
me. I love it. I'm going towards it and I'm celebrating. But, or so I should say, and when I read the script that you were offering in those last chapters there, the one thing that I realized, you said, envision, where
Right,
are you? And I went, I know where I am. On my 50th birthday, I'm going to be at my cabin. I'm going to be with my family. That's where we go every year. And this is what this is going to look like. And it
yeah,
very well could be hot. And here's what I'm going to be doing, laying in a tube with a drink in my hand, watching my people that I love. That brings this gratitude. And then the next day, I'm like, oh, but I had work to do. So I couldn't get that done. And so this is the piece. This is the
right,
piece that so many of us, we start with the good intention and then we pull right back.
right,
So what I appreciated was you were giving us these foundational pieces that help you not fall off the wagon.
right. Because
But
there's no
women,
wagon. There's no wagon.
no,
It is just a journey. Is I just had a client right before you. She's like, I fell off the wagon. I go, there's no flipping wagon.
well, then why is it a
It's
saying?
because this is what it was. We're on a diet. We're not on a diet. We're drinking. We're not drinking. We're on the
It
wagon.
is.
We're not.
Yeah.
But it is. My whole thing is we are in control. We get to choose what we choose. So if we choose to eat a bag of chips, eat the bag of chips because you're choosing to, knowing you're going to feel like crap, that it's not good for you. But and then we're not beating ourselves up, because the problem is when we beat ourselves up, we feel like crap. We feel like crap. We get to treat ourselves like crap. And then it is that spiral, and nothing good comes out of that.
Well, you just said self-care is a responsibility. That, thank you, because you've struck me in the head 3 times already today, and I'm appreciative of it because it's true. What I expect to see, I see.
Right,
And if I'm expecting myself to fall off the wagon that isn't there,
right.
then I will. And if I offer myself the choice, then I feel like I have a freedom. And so if I learn, as you say, you take care of your car, you take care of your house, you put gas in your car when it says E.
Mm-hmm.
If you have kids, you generally take care of them.
Right.
If you have something you love, like a phone, you take care of it. Why are we not taking care of our bodies? Do you have the answer to that?
Yes, because we weren't taught. I mean, I was, so I mean, like is, but most, and especially women, like as young girls, is,
Yep.
oh, she's conceited, or it's all about her. All of those negative things. If you think that you're something special, right?
Right.
And
Right.
we are just taught to like tamper it down, and you don't take care
Yes.
of yourself, and it's in our DNA that we take care of others, but we just forget that we are part of the others. We need to be taken care of. So one little exercise I do with
Yes.
almost every woman I see is I have you write down two things every day, three things that you are grateful for your body's ability to do.
Mm.
And they don't have to be big ticket items. Sometimes it is like see a beautiful sunset, breathe, and then
I Sorry,
there's
I wrote down 3 things when you asked us to do that exercise.
good,
And one of them was I move. I can
right?
move freely.
I can move. Every bone in my body, every joint right now moves.
Yeah.
And then the next thing, and this is really important though, is three things that you did for you in the day. And again, it can be brushed my teeth. But the
Okay.
reason that I have you doing this is because this is creating new neural pathways. This is, you have to think about what you did for yourself. So it's putting you in that frame. And then you're seeing yourself as, I'm someone who does things for myself. And that becomes your new reality, that you are someone that takes care of yourself.
I really appreciate that. I appreciate what you just said there, that we become someone that takes care of ourselves. When you said 3 things you did for yourself in a day, I grimaced. I don't know if you saw that. I was like, ugh,
Yeah, totally.
because my head went to extraordinary.
But I
Like,
didn't get a massage today.
right. And you're like, did you brush your teeth?
Right,
Yes. Did I drink water? Yes.
right. Yes,
Okay, so you're asking us, you're offering this option that we always, now, okay, so maybe we don't always, but many of us go to this catastrophizing or this glamorizing. What did you do for yourself today?
right,
Well, I didn't do 2 hours of Pilates, I
right,
did 20 minutes or whatever. And you're saying, did you walk your dog? Did
right.
you sit with your cat? Yes, you did something
For
today.
you. Right,
Okay. That feeds you.
right. I am also a huge one for micro actions.
Mm.
Like I
Mm-hmm.
do deep knee bends when I brush my teeth. I have for decades. Is little things like that, they add up.
So explain some more micro actions we could do.
Okay, well, another one, and this is my sort of either stress or ADD buster when I'm like just at that point. Usually, when we go and whether it's going to get something to eat or doing a behavior that we don't want to continue, going online and buying another pair of shoes, which we don't need to
Right.
do, right? Is because what we're doing is we need a distraction, is feeling that.
Mm.
So when we feel ourselves wanting to move from what we are doing to a behavior that we don't really want to do, it is not that we want to do that, it's that we don't want to do what we're doing. So we're looking for a distraction. My distraction, I close my door to my private office and I put on Uptown Funk and I have a 4.5 minute dance party for one. And that is my cardio. I get my body and I've gotten my head out of where it was.
Wow. I love that. So so this is supposed to be like this big deal. Hypnosis is supposed to be this really big deal. This is like past life regression. This is what happens in a therapist's office. You say things that you shouldn't be saying. You don't have control of your body. And
None
you're
of that.
saying,
None of that. None of that. But it does work on your body also. I mean, I work with a tremendous amount of hospitals. 20% of my clients come from doctors.
wow,
Is for behavior modification, they need to quit
sure.
smoking, lose weight. Stress is a huge one. Um, I work with first responders. I run retreats all over the country with wounded veterans. I mean, hypnosis is becoming very mainstream. Still, most insurances
Yeah,
won't cover it, but they will, in time. But do you want to talk a little bit about hypnosis in the body?
I do because I've got a couple questions.
Okay.
So, when you're talking about hypnosis and say there's someone listening who has mental health struggles, what do you say to that? They're saying I'm suffering from anxiety, I'm suffering from depression, I'm suffering from, panic. How do you meet them in the work that you do?
Okay, really good question. Is anybody, I am somebody that really turned my health around by what I ate. So people that have read my book and hear me speak very often will think, oh, she's against medications. Could not be more wrong.
Hmm.
I did not want to take a medication for the rest of my life, which is what they were saying. But there are times, like I really believe when you're dealing with depression, I believe if you're feeling punky, exercise, being hydrated, and eating well helps your mental state. But if you can't
Hmm.
get out of bed to exercise and drink water and eat healthy food, it's not going to happen. I mean, we are so lucky that the psych meds that are out there today exist. So I didn't want to at all take anything from that. But I
Right.
see a tremendous amount of people with stress and anxiety. And it probably is the number one thing that I do because almost whatever someone's coming to me for, when we're in stress mode, we are not thinking as clearly and everything is more difficult. Pain is more sharp. Being able to say, no, I'm not going to have that or buy that is harder. So dealing with that. So that is one thing, is helping people deal with that and giving them some tools to be able to do
Hmm.
it in hypnosis. We do something that's called anchoring. So if you came to me and said, I want to drink more water, and pretend this is a clear glass of water, I might say,
Sure.
every time you see a clear glass of water or a bottle of water, your mouth starts getting really dry. And all you want to do is get a drink of water because you're really thirsty. And you can feel that when you see that glass of water.
Yes.
Would you like a drink of water?
I have it right here. I would like a drink of water.
There you go. Um, so
Wow.
so that's what anchoring is. And it can be like if you want to run more. every time you're lacing up your sneakers, you can't wait to get on the floor. So that's called anchoring, one thing. So I have this thing that
Huh.
I teach people to take their thumb and their first finger, push together, breathe in at the count of three, and then release at the count of three. But nobody needs to see you do it. You can be very discreet. And
Mm.
that's what I anchor them when they are dealing with severe stress and anxiety. And I'll do it in hypnosis, that when they start to feel that physical response from stress or anxiety, or the bees start buzzing in the head, doing this and your body calms and your mind clears. And I have to tell you, Lori, I have had people come back to me years later, guys with severe PTSD, that have said that helped better than anything. It is a game changer. Um,
Do do you work with people over like Zoom or anything like that? Or yeah,
so now this is what I started to tell you in the beginning. I wouldn't do any of that. That's why I wrote the book, because, oh, that
right.
wouldn't work.
Yeah,
Until COVID came along, I'm like, okay, I better come up to snuff on this pretty quick.
yeah, yeah,
And so
yeah. Right.
now half of my clients, more than half of my day I spend on Zoom. And even local ones
Yep,
sometimes won't come like, hey, let's just Zoom today. And the hypnosis part, like a really cozy chair that you sit in here. But it's the
yep.
end of the session. So once you're done, it's like chop, chop, you got to go. But if you're home, you can be all cozy and stay in that nice space.
So, in terms of anchoring for mental health, how do you take how would you encourage someone to allow themselves, or do they allow themselves the permission to move out of anxiety or panic or some of those things that really like they're that constant cycling narrative?
It is, my whole thing is empowering people and having them see their strengths. And so that's
Mm,
what I will go digging for, is examples of, well, look, you did this. And
wow.
so someone came in the other day and has panic attacks.
Mm,
And not this recent one, but the one prior to that was very bad. And she had to be taken out of a restaurant because she
yeah.
was on the ground. She couldn't move. They did help her. She was that stuck in it. So this time she is in a different restaurant, because didn't want to go back to that one. She's in a different restaurant, and she felt that same panic coming on. And she said to the people that she was with, you know what? I'm not feeling great here. I'm going to give you my credit card and I'm going to go. So
Mm.
she came in feeling like a failure because she had another. I said, "Are you kidding? You problem solved. You saw it, and you stopped and said, okay, I see what's happening. How am I going to deal with this in a way that I'm going to feel pretty good about? I'm not going to have to be carried out of a restaurant again. I'm going to walk out."
So I
And
have a connection that maybe feel free to say, no, Laura, you're off base.
yeah,
But you brought up earlier on the woman who had, she had had a sexual assault experience, and she was walking into the parking lot. She saw someone that kind of set her off. She turned around, went back to her car. You said, hey, that's a sixth sense. That was, you were looking at someone who had, maybe it was a similar feature, or maybe it was just the vibe, or
yep,
maybe it was their energy, whatever reminded you of that moment way back then.
right,
And then you're saying in this other situation, there's a woman who's experiencing a panic attack. Now she responds in a similar fashion by saying, I got to excuse myself because I'm sensing it. So the body is sensing
right. The body is,
It's anticipating.
I mean, have you ever, you're walking down the street and it's dead quiet, but you know someone's behind you
Mm-hmm.
and you turn around and feel them because
No one's,
we pick up, our senses are so heightened in ways we don't even know, but we
yeah.
know.
Yes, we do know. And so this is interesting. A question that I have is, so is hypnosis, now I don't know if it can be boiled down to this, but is it healing us or is it helping us? Like
Both.
what's the combination
Both.
there?
So let me tell you, this is one of the, so when I first was learning about hypnosis, I kept reading about like hypnosis on the body and stuff. I'm like, that
Yeah.
doesn't make sense. Um, and I was just focusing on behaviors. And then once I got like
Um,
really good at that and into that, I started paying a little bit more attention about hypnosis on the body. And a couple of studies that Harvard did that I read, one of them was they took people that needed new hips and knees and they hypnotized them for three things: that the body would respond well to the surgeon, to the surgery, and it would pull the blood away from the surgical area. Two, the pain would be manageable. And three, the body would heal quickly. They found that the surgical times were cut by 20%. And in my mind, I thought, okay, so maybe they had the faster surgeons on those, right? Who knows?
right.
The pain meds that were needed, 67% less pain meds. And again, so maybe that's a tougher group, but
Right.
the skin physically healed 50% faster. So I read this and I spent 2 years. Anybody, a current client here or anybody I knew, or I'm in the grocery store and someone's saying, "Oh, I'm getting a new hip next week." I'd say, "Oh, come to me, no charge, 3 times. I just want to see how this is going." The results, because I live in a small area, people were going to the hip and joint center and my name kept coming up because they were blown away by people like healing so quickly and it going so well that they invited me to come and talk to the doctors and nurses.
Question about this. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And that you're well, first, yeah, there's a whole bunch of things in there that are amazing. One that you would say, come and see me 3 times. That's a lot of time for you to be doing that with someone. But again, your desire, it goes back to your desire and
Oh,
that original thing, which is like you're just doing this because this is part of who you are.
yeah.
And so, what could you just give us a quick insight into what would you say to someone who came in your office, they got knee or hip pain, they're going in for surgery, and what's something that you would say to them?
Oh,
What do you begin?
so I hypnotize them for the three things. Well, the first one is if if I were to take this pen and jab it in my hand, my body would go into shock. It would send
Yep.
all of its resources right into that area, what it is. So the first thing we do is talk to the body and say, this is a choice. This is going to fix your body. So when that scalpel, your body is not being attacked, this is helping. So you can be relaxed in that area and relaxing that area so it knows that it's coming, and then telling it to pull the blood away from the area so the surgeon can work. So that's the first piece of it. The other is I teach them, and I don't want to do it here because I don't ever want to teach somebody, because like if somebody comes to me for pain, unless they have a doctor's note, I'm not
Right.
going to touch it because pain is important. That's our body's way of saying we have an issue.
It's a
So
communication. Yeah.
I teach them how to manage the pain and talk to the body on that, and then that it will heal. And that our body is brilliant at healing. I mean, think of every time that it's ever gotten a little scratch, a big scratch over your almost 50 years,
Yes.
that your body heals. So it knows how to do it. And it is going to just take that healing and we're going to ramp it up. We are going to take those
So
cells.
So we're going to heal our bodies. We're going to ramp up the healing. We're going to speak to ourselves. We're going to honor the process by saying, hey, I'm not separate from you. I'm with you. Guess what? This bag of bones and flesh actually has a consciousness. And so I'm going to say to you, we have a choice here, and I'm choosing the surgery. I'm not saying it with my mind only, I'm saying it in my body. So my first question is, how do we connect to that? How would you offer that piece of advice to our listeners? And my second thing is, we got a strategy around this, it sounds like, because you've said, you know, you want to feel good, we want to look good, we want to know we're taken care of. This really does those things. It's a strategy that you can put into your life that can help build on anything. This is not about
No,
weight.
no,
This is about what weighs you down.
bingo.
Oh,
Yes.
wow, Suzi.
I mean, I think the first thing is getting clear with what you want. What is
Yeah.
what is not working in your life that you want to tweak? What is working in your life? And that's what, like in the book, there are those questions to what is it you really want and why do you want that? And
Mhm.
digging, it's
Yep.
my book is a perfect example. Is I kept saying, I want to write a book, I want to write a book, and I wasn't writing a book. And then one day I realized because I did this deep dive, I didn't want to write a book. I wanted to have written a book. Very
Right.
different.
Well, there's an in-between place there of excruciation.
Right. And I
If
did
that's
not
not even a
want
word,
that.
but it's excruciation.
Right. And it wasn't until the article came out in the magazine that I had a real, okay, now I
Mm,
want to do this. So it is, and it's the same thing with changing anything about what we're doing is what do we really want? What do
okay.
we want our lives to look like?
Because, so what do we want in our lives to look like? What do we want? Getting clear about what we want, what we don't want. Now, you said something too about insulating and protecting, because for you, there's when you were talking about your journey of weight loss, it was insulating and protecting from someone else's belief about us. What was the insulating and protecting about? Because when you share that, then people can apply it to their situation.
I mean, I think we all do that to some extent. We isolate and protect. I mean, we're not
Mm,
exactly, if these cameras were turned on at five random times in either one of our lives, we would not look like this. We would not look in this place calm and all of this. I mean, there would be, so we're not always showing everybody. I mean, social media has made it that much worse because we think we're seeing everyone's life and we're not. We're seeing the very best parts of them.
yes.
Is, but so that's just a normal thing that we do.
Hmm.
But the whole, I think, in growth in life is being good with who we are.
Yes. And the thing is, it's a conscious choice. Okay, so I might get roasted for this, but I've been a lifetime I've had a lifetime belief that I was not good enough, that I was not worthy enough, that I was not smart enough, and that came from someone else. I had
Yep.
my guest on the show last year. She's Eileen Lashinsky. She said, Lori, that is not your shame. That was their shame that they put on you. It wasn't yours. You were 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That was not something. You were 20, 24, 26. That was not your shame.
Right.
And so we have this idea of not being good enough. And when we come to that, we want to protect ourselves from the people. So what do? Well, when we expect people to see that we are not good enough, then that's what we expect. And so you're saying, expect the unexpected. every day, you can over time rewire and retrain in small moments. Now, hypnosis is visual, is it?
No, it's all talk. You
So
close your
in the
eyes.
back in chapters 29, we go down, you count down,
Oh, oh, oh,
from
it's visual what I'm talking to you and you're imagining what I'm saying to the best of your
yes,
ability.
yes, yes.
Okay, sorry. I thought you
Okay.
meant it was something that you were watching and doing. Um, is hypnosis allows us to get there a lot faster than on our own.
Yes.
Is
Yes.
but they're not good enough. I mean it's universal. And my way of dealing with that. So I think I even talk about her in the book. I'm not sure. I read the book. I haven't read it since I wrote it. Um, but is a client of mine who is literally a rocket scientist. She is the highest
Yes.
non-military. Okay, she's in there.
Yep.
Clearance, Rhodes Scholar, Ivy League grad, and gorgeous.
Yep.
But
Yep.
her father was a brilliant scientist with mental health issues that used to tell her all the time, thank God you're beautiful because you're dumb. And she was in her 40s when she started seeing me, mid to late 40s. I mean, this wasn't like 23. And she still felt like she somehow got where she was, but she didn't deserve it. She wasn't really smart, all of this. So you can sit there and go, oh, you're really smart. She's not buying it. So what I have to do is break it down. Like I started in high school with her. Like, what were your grades like? They were really good. How good? Like 4.0. Did you cheat? No. Oh, you must have gone to a really easy school. Not really. It was kind of competitive. Then how'd you do that well? All the way through, like getting into college, like your SATs. Did you pay someone to take them for you? Did you study a whole lot beforehand? All of these things that is forcing her to say, no, I did that. No, I did that. That her subconscious mind has to say, okay, this is true.
Hmm.
You are smart. You have done these things. And it's not necessarily smart. It can be kind, compassionate. It can, I mean, I won't have people that have been in abusive relationships and they're beating themselves up because they stayed for 10 years. And I'm like, you didn't stay for 20, you left. This is the thing. I don't believe that we ever make a mistake because in the
Hmm.
moment we make a decision, we are making what we believe is the best decision we have the ability to make. Somebody who's been clean for heroin for 10 years and picks up that needle, it might, the second it enters their skin, go, shit, this was a mistake. But up until that moment, they didn't have the juice to not make it. That was the
Wow.
best they could do. So it's just helping people rewrite their story. I have a client of mine. He went to jail for selling drugs in high school. And he had this really successful pot smoking business in high school. And he gets out, he like feels like a loser. I'm like, okay, let's just forget what the product was. You created at 17 an amazing business. You have an incredible business mind. Like you picked a dumbass product to use your
Sure.
smarts with,
Sure.
but this is who you are. And it
Hmm.
allowed him to change his story. He never saw it that way. All he saw was the shame of being like, I'm out of jail at 23.
I love that. We have the power to change our story. We have the power to rewrite. And that those words, when people hear that, they just go immediately go, not me, I can't. I'm 50. I can't change it now. I can't rewrite it. I can't do this. I can't do that. And what you're saying is we're talking about choosing that Y in the road where we begin to love ourselves enough that you're saying you're not a mistake and we don't make mistakes because what we did in that moment right up to that second is the best we could do. And if that was you loving yourself, then that's what you did. And so I just find that inspiring and it's so beautiful to me. I'm like it's solid. It's so solid. If I could just go back quickly to the
Mhm.
woman, the rocket scientist, because I have in my notes here, um, imposter syndrome,
Big time.
because she believed that who am I to
Right.
sit at this, to sit at this table? I have suffered from imposter syndrome for years because somebody told me that I was a dirt person that reinforced to me every day of my childhood up until I was like 38, 39, would say, we're dirt people. We're not the people. We're not the people who are successful. And I would hear that and I would say, but I am. Like, I know it. And so we can come across people who are putting things on us all day long.
Right.
But the body wants to have the freedom to bring us back, this is my opinion, to who we were before the world told us who we should be.
Right.
And this is what you've done with for us. Like you've created this really cool roadmap and blueprint that is about your journey of weight loss, but it's about the weight. Again, it's about what weighs you down.
Right.
It doesn't have to be physical. And so I just find this so exceptional. Can we speak to love? Can you speak to self-love and the power of love?
It is. I mean, this is what I'll ask people when we're going through changing any behaviors that have to do with self-love and taking care of yourself is, do you have any dogs or cats? I always go with pets first, because
Yeah,
kids can be like,
good.
um, is do you, do you have any pets?
Yeah,
And if they do, I say, do you take good care of them? And 99% of them say, oh my God, yes. Why?
yeah.
Because I love them. See, we take care of what we love. So it is learning to love ourselves. And that's
So,
part of the doing the things that I do for myself. And it's part of the appreciation for what your body and your mind is part of that. I have the ability to do Wordle in 3 today. Um, is those things, so you're appreciating yourself. And then going back to, so if you came to me with a client and told me that story, and you don't have to answer any of these right now, but I would say, who are the people that said this? And if it was, I'm just going to make this up, and I don't know your story at all, but if it were your parents, and I would say, what's your relationship with them? And you go, oh my God, I love them. Is I would say, can you tell me some things that you're alike in your parents, and then some things that are different? Always start with the
whoa.
easier things to do. And then I talk about things that you're different on, and maybe you're different politically. That's a really easy one, especially today, because
Sure.
then I'll say, so you can love them, but really fundamentally, you know that they are wrong on how they're doing this, or maybe they eat horribly.
Mm,
Is you can love these things, but you know the way that they eat is really wrong for your body. Could they have been wrong on other things?
wow. That's a really good way to begin to find the beef.
Yeah,
That's a good way to find the beef. Being able to say, what do you love and what do you not love? Like What do you see from your vantage point now that's not working for them?
Right. Or how are
And
you
I
parenting different? That's a big one if they,
Oh, it's a huge one, right? And just even through observation, how are you treating yourself differently than they did? And many of us who are my vintage, so 50, and then of course you would even have a different connection to this, because if I were to look at my mother and my grandmother, how my mom and my grandma interacted with the world and their dreams and their is so different from how I do it and from how my daughters do it.
right,
So it's a very we're really harvesting information and growth, and this goes from one another, from our life, from the people that we are in community with. And I think this goes back to the very beginning where we talked about PTSD and PTSG, which is where you're stuck in the trauma, or you acknowledge the trauma and you keep growing in some way.
right.
um
And
can you
go on, sorry.
No, no, please go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, with the trauma, so you have daughters, is
Yes.
how has what happened to you shaped you and made you a better mother?
Mm, I have talked, um, I have been careful to share stories that would harm or sow seeds of um, bitterness or resentment in my children. When I speak about what their potential is, I always refer to my necklace that my friend made me. It says the possibilities are endless. And I wear it around my neck because I have made it through a lot of different and difficult circumstances in my life. And when you grow up feeling like your body isn't safe because someone has harmed you, when you grow up believing that you're not smart enough, when you grow up believing that you're also not worthy enough, and when you grow up believing that you are having to survive every day because you never know what's coming home, there's a lot of instability in that. And when I have birthed my children and raised them, I've talked a lot about that. Firstly, I have always tried to save myself so then I can be better to help them. That's my first thing. So maybe I haven't always done self-care well, but I've
Hmm.
done therapy well. I've worked through my pain well. And now that this year is starting for me, in order for me to live a good life, I believe that I don't have to exhaust myself, and that I can try to bring in situations and moments like my Pilates and my yoga, that and my walking of my dog, that can bring me into that space of just like, okay, so I am learning, and they can see that.
How long have you been doing what you're doing?
I mean, the podcast?
Yeah, or and what did you do before? What's your
Well, I I am I was my first child was born at 23,
okay?
and I had small businesses, but my beginning of my life was a mother. I was a mother, a
Okay.
nurturer. I connected people. And then when my youngest was born and she went to kindergarten, I said to Dave, I said, now Dave and I've been married for 30 years
Okay.
almost this year. You're
Okay, wait,
40. You're 40 years,
40,
right?
40. But wait, let me just ask one quick question. Is
But-
he a good guy?
Oh, oh, as I live and breathe, he is the most beautiful. Um, he is someone that doesn't require anything of me, and he loves me for me. And so there's no requirement. There's not this list of, hey, Lori, I want you to be this. he looks at me and he goes, like he just shakes his head and goes, okay, if that's where we're going, that's where we're going. But there's definitely this equality that, um, and I can't believe, I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say it is beautiful to me that my life led me to him because what I had as a model was not okay.
Okay. But can I just, I want to go back to when you were telling your story.
Sure.
You said taught you not to believe that to believe you weren't good enough and to believe this, but you
Mhm.
didn't believe it. You
And
didn't.
I did it. And then I was, when I showed it, there was a penalty.
Okay, but you didn't believe it because if you believed it, you would not have had a child at 23 believing that you could nurture and love it. You probably
Wow.
you probably wouldn't
Oh,
have, if your husband is a good guy, you probably wouldn't have had that that self belief that he could find somebody like you and you would self sabotage it. You wouldn't have
right.
the confidence to start little businesses. So you didn't believe that shit. It just made you stronger.
Oh, Susie. Yes.
Yes. So
Yes.
screw that. Yes.
Screw it.
Yes. You did not buy it.
I didn't. Oh
Right.
my gosh.
You didn't. So it was a shit show to grow up with. Nobody
Yeah.
would want that. Nobody
No.
anything. But it did not change your core belief in you.
Well, that's a drop your mic and walk away moment right there. Oh, you just gifted me.
Set you free, I hope. Like letting go of all of that. Like try as they might, you didn't get me down.
No, you're right. And and I I've recently in the last 4 years um am estranged. He left. He left our whole family, including my mother. And that was really difficult, but what it did was it helped me realize that I wasn't the problem. Like that
Right.
that there's something going on over in that neck of the woods and like so I've been awakening to it and I'm not carrying it as heavily as I was before. But let me tell you, and this is true for most of us, that I think this is a statement, but then you can maybe we can end with this where I know what you're saying. I know it.
But
Sometimes I don't remember.
right.
And it's like, in this moment where like you're saying, no, no, you never believe that. Because if you did, you wouldn't have the life you have.
Right.
And you are 1,000,000% right about this. And so then it's like what it's what you said at the beginning on page 60, which is my favorite page. Through your eyes, you saw what you expected to see. I'm expecting to see
Right. But it
all
wasn't
these places that I failed or I'm not good enough or and
right.
you just crack through that like a freaking sledgehammer and go, I don't really know you, but can I just tell you, sister, you married the right guy and here's all the things and you were a nurturer because you it wouldn't
Right.
have worked out this
And
way.
you
Whoa.
believed you were a nurturer.
Oh, I knew
Right.
it.
So yeah.
So what are we doing?
Not right. So now is the next time you tell your story, it's going to be different or not.
Yeah.
But you get to see yourself now as this really brave, strong little kid that's like, bring it on. I mean, I can't stop you. I'm a little kid. You're not, but you're not
Yeah.
breaking me. I'm not buying your shit.
I'm not picking it up.
No, I'm
You
a
can't
who I
sell it to me anymore.
no.
Yes. Oh, so cycle breaking, right?
Boy,
You,
isn't that what we all try to do?
it is what we all try to do.
Yes,
And this is a way for us to like you are giving this on a platter in some ways. Like chapter 29, everybody who's listening, chapter 29 of this book, Break Free, is the scripts for you to begin to, breathe deeply, 10 all the way to 1, and then you just simply read the script slowly to yourself.
yeah,
And Suzi brings us into a deeper space of connection between our body, our spirit, and who we are. This is this is this is so beautiful to me. What do you want to impart to our guests and our listeners?
that you have the ability to create the life you want. That's it. We can't control outside us, but we can control how we feel
Yes.
and how we
Oh,
want to see things. And it's
yes.
powerful. I mean, we don't ever get to be the victim again, which sometimes it's easy to be like, oh, but it is so empowering when you realize that you are in complete control. You get to feel how you want to feel. You get to feel your power, and we all have an immense power inside us.
I want to thank you for
Mhm.
this beautiful moment. This time spent with you it is absolutely met I know it met me, and I wasn't really ready for that. And I'm loving every second of it because that's the beauty of these kinds of conversations is when we can just come as we are
Right.
with what we've made, the story that we have, and say, look at my life. Look at what I did, and look at how I serve and use my skill and my personality and all my giftings, good or bad, to contribute to people's lives. This is what you've shown us. And I am thrilled, and I am proud to have been able to had a conversation with you today. It's a privilege, it's an honor, and I just so appreciate it.
Well,
Suzi, thank you
it
so much.
it was great, and you are great. So
Thank you.
thank you. This was really fun, and this was awesome. And go write your story because it's really different. It's really different.
I will write my story. Thank you so much.
All right.
That's great. Well, I will reach out to you and let you know how things go. And, I'm going to share with our listeners where they can find you and all the places. And you can get your book on Amazon. I know that for sure.
Yes.
And it's
Don't ask
also
Susie to give
downloadable
you
in
a.
Kindle. Hey, you know what? Um, this is an interactive book, and that's not something that I find often. You've created spaces for someone to write in the book,
Right.
but the best option is to use a paper and a pen and do it there, because you're slowly walking us down into a deeper part of ourselves, and that is something that I've experienced, and anybody listening today has experienced it yourself.
Okay,
So
but didn't you love what you found?
I love
Little
what I
badass
found.
kid.
You know what? I had when I was 3 years old, my parents bought me a shirt that said "tiny but tough," and I'm not kidding you. I said my mom called me that the other day, and I had this visceral reaction, not to her, but afterwards. I was like, "Ugh, that those are bad memories." And exactly what you just said there quietly and shook your head. No, because you believe no mistakes. You believe that life is working for you. And sometimes we can get stuck thinking that those past experiences didn't work for us. And you're saying it's not true.
They
It's
did.
not true. You are where you are. It
Right.
worked. It worked. Love yourself, love
Yes.
others, and let people go that need to be let go.
Right.
But draw yourself into your own sacred space, which is your body.
Correct.
And that's just fantastic.
This was great. This was so fun.
Thank you. If there ever comes a time where I'm gonna need some support from you, I will reach out to you.
Totally.
Yeah,
I am here. Absolutely.
I know you are. Thank you so
All
much.
right.
Be blessed and have the most beautiful day.
You too. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.